You know that feeling, right? That little check engine light pops on, and your heart just sinks a little. Well, if you're seeing that light, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to tackle one of the most common culprits behind it, the P0030 error code. Stick with me, and I promise we're going to turn this confusing code into a simple, step-by-step fix. Yep, we have all been there. That dreaded amber glow just staring back at you from the dashboard. It's so frustrating, isn't it? But hey, think of it like this. Your car is trying to talk to you. And when your code reader spits out P0030, it's not just some random error. It's the first major clue in a little mystery we're about to solve together. Okay, so let's get right into it. The very first step is always to understand the language. What is this P0030 code really trying to say? Let's break down all that technical jargon into plain, simple English. So, at its very core, P0030 means your car's main computer, the brain of the operation, has spotted a problem. Specifically, it's a fault in the heater control circuit for the oxygen sensor located at Bank 1, Sensor 1. Now, I know that probably sounds like a mouthful, but don't you worry, we're about to translate all of it. The main character in our story today is the HO2S. That's just the fancy name for the heated oxygen sensor. This little guy plays a huge, and I mean huge, role in how well your car performs, its fuel economy, and even its emissions. It's a pretty big deal. So this sensor really has two critical jobs. First, it kind of sniffs the exhaust to see how much unburned oxygen is coming out. That info helps the computer get the air-to-fuel mixture just right for the best possible efficiency. But here's the second part, and this is the key to our P003's code. It has a tiny heater built right into it. See, an O2 sensor has to be hot, like 600 degrees hot to work properly. That little heater gets it up to temperature in just a few seconds, which means it can start doing its job right away and slash those nasty cold start emissions. All right, so now that we know what part we're dealing with, let's put on our detective hats for a minute. A P0030 code doesn't automatically mean the sensor itself is bad. It means the circuit has a problem. So we need to investigate the most likely suspects. And this chart right here, it basically tells us the whole story. Take a look at that. A whopping 70% of the time, the problem is the heater element inside the sensor itself has just failed. The rest of the time, it's usually wiring problems, maybe a simple blown fuse, or some other really rare issue. So right off the bat, our prime suspect is the sensor. So how do we actually confirm our suspicions? How do we find the real culprit and not just guess? Well, let's walk through a really simple step-by-step investigation that you can absolutely do yourself. Here is your game plan. First up, you've got to find the right sensor. Remember, Bank 1 is always the side of the engine with cylinder number 1, and sensor 1 is the one before the catalytic converter. Next, you do a really thorough visual check of the wiring. Then, pop open your fuse box and check for the O2 heater fuse. If all of that looks good, then it's time for the final showdown, the test. And now for the definitive test. If the wiring and the fuse are all good, it's time to test the actual component. And you don't need a bunch of fancy equipment for this either. A basic multimeter is all it takes to get a rock-solid answer and finally stop all the guesswork. I absolutely love this analogy because it makes it all so clear. The heater inside that O2 sensor, it's basically just a resistive element, just like the filament in an old light bulb. And what happens when that filament breaks or burns out? The circuit is open, and it just stops working. That's exactly what we're about to test for. And here it is, the moment of truth. These are the results you're looking for. Once you unplug the sensor, you're going to measure the resistance between the two pins for the heater circuit. A healthy, happy sensor should read somewhere between 2 and 30 ohms. But if your meter reads OL, that means an open circuit, or close to 0, which means a short. Then you found your problem. That sensor is officially toast. Okay, so once you've confirmed you have a bad sensor with your multimeter, the path forward is crystal clear. It's time to make the fix and get that pesky check engine light turned off for good. And there you have it. In the vast majority of cases for a P0030 code, the solution is as simple as replacing that failed Bank 1 Sensor 1 oxygen sensor. That one part will fix the electrical fault that the computer was screaming about. Just a couple of final things to keep in mind. First, those sensors can be really tight in the exhaust pipe, so a special slotted socket made just for O2 sensors can be an absolute lifesaver. Trust me on that one. Once the new sensor is in, you'll not only clear the code, but you'll also get your engine's efficiency back where it should be, and you'll be doing your part to reduce emissions.
It's really a win-win.
And just like that, what started out as this mysterious, frustrating light on your dash is now just a logical, solvable puzzle. You now know how to decode the message, you know how to identify the suspects, and you know how to run the final test to find the culprit. See? That check engine light isn't so scary once you learn how to speak its language.